What's up, guys? Hopefully you're doing well. So obviously I want to talk about something that I thought would be quite interesting. Um, Back in October last year, well, around the start of October last year, I started a program called Making Strides, which is basically a program for young people that have learning disabilities and autism, etc., etc. And it helps them kind of to get back to get into employment, and to make those kind of next steps in their journey, so to speak. And we used to meet up. I used to meet up with the job coach Nikki once a week. At the Whitechapel Idea Store, we would always have a particular room in the Idea Store, and we would have our sessions in there most weeks. Apart from there were a few weeks where he wasn't able to book that room, but he was able to put another room in the library, and we made do with that room for that particular week, which wasn't that big of an issue. So things were all going so well. Obviously, we went on a big trip around about late November time, early December. We went on a trip to London Zoo, and that was around about 2 or 3 weeks before the sessions finished for Christmas, but obviously for the Christmas break. So then obviously we went off for the Christmas break, and then early in the new year, around about 2 or 3 days after the new year, um, he phoned me and he told me that he said to me, oh, we'll have our one-to-one session on Friday, and I was like, hey, fair enough, and he kind of told me that he was leaving, that he was going to be leaving. And when he said that, I was kind of shocked because that had kind of come out of nowhere a little bit. Like there hadn't really been any mention of that before Christmas. There hadn't been any before we'd gone off on Christmas break. He hadn't mentioned that he was going to be leaving. There'd been no talk of that. You know, he hadn't mentioned anything in any of the sessions as far as I was aware. But it kind of did. I mean, obviously, it wasn't something that we kind of really had that time to sort of wrap our heads around it, because obviously, it was something that sort of came out of nowhere a little bit. Like none of us were really expecting that. Like none of us really knew that it was, that he was going to be leaving until obviously until he said that, obviously early in the new year. So obviously we had our last one-to-one sessions with him until obviously up until recent, obviously with him on that week. And he left, and he did say it would be around about 3 weeks to a month before we had our next one-to-one sessions, because obviously they needed to advertise the job, give people an opportunity to, a chance to apply for the job, interview people, make a decision, and then obviously make a final decision as to who they were going to take on as the new job coach, and go from there. And that was obviously all going to take a little bit of time to do, obviously, and to sort out, and obviously it did. Obviously, I didn't meet my new job coach until this week. Obviously, we've got a female job coach called Razia now. Unfortunately, things have also changed in relations to where we're going to be doing, where they want to do the one-to-one sessions now. Because what it is, they can't get the funding anymore for to book the rooms at the Idea Store, and they're saying they want to. Obviously, she said about wanting to do the one-to-one sessions at the town hall because it would be easier for them. And that, to be honest, that has kind of pissed me off a little bit. It shouldn't be about what's easier for them or, whatever. It's about what makes me comfortable. And I don't particularly feel comfortable going into to do my one-to-one sessions at the town hall. the other young people, they might not have a problem with that. They if they want to go in there, then that's up to them. But I'm not particularly keen on the idea of doing my one-to-one sessions at the town hall. My mum's not particularly keen on the idea of that either. She did email my job coach Razia on Friday to obviously say, well, he's not comfortable with this. Is there any way to do the meeting somewhere else? Because that's what they ultimately need to do. Is they ultimately need to find somewhere else to do the one-to-one sessions that doesn't require any sort of funding. Because that is what it's that is why obviously they can't obviously put the session like the rooms at the library now. It's because of the funding. Like I don't know why that's suddenly an issue now, because there was never an issue with that when we were doing the sessions with Nikki. I would go there practically every week. You know, I personally had no problems. Going to the Whitechapel Library. I was perfectly happy and perfectly comfortable to do that. To go to the library, to go to the Whitechapel Library every week, if when I needed to. I didn't have a problem with that. Obviously, we had the same room practically all the time, apart from those weeks where we had to book, where we had to, obviously, he had to book another room, and obviously, we had to make do with that room rather than the one that we usually have. But the majority of the time, we did have the same room, most weeks. But now, all of a sudden, it's, oh, well, we can't book rooms at the library anymore because of the funding. And it's like, well, what's changed? Because that was never a problem before, so why is that suddenly an issue? You know, and that's sadly an issue with a lot of things these days. It's, oh, we can't do this because of the funding, we can't do that because of the funding. Funding is ultimately always the issue. I'm not trying to make things awkward by saying that I don't want to do my sessions at the town hall, and that I would rather do my sessions anywhere else or somewhere else. It's just that I wouldn't particularly feel comfortable going into the town hall, which is why I've asked that we do the session somewhere else. To be honest, I was a little bit kind of, offended or a little bit angered when, my job coach said to me the other day about wanting to do, the sessions there at the town hall because it's easiest for them. Or like, it's easier for them, and I just thought to myself, like, why have I got to do something and do something because it's easier for you? Right, at the end of the day, I shouldn't have to do something because it's easier for them. It's not, at the end of the day, it's not about, as I said, it's not about what's easier for them, it's about me. It's about doing what makes me feel comfortable. And I don't feel comfortable to do my sessions at the town hall. Hopefully we might, well, we didn't get an email from her on Friday, but hopefully we should get some kind of an email well, maybe we'll get some kind of an email from her today. As to what the situation is with the library and if she can book it, which I shouldn't see why she couldn't. But hopefully she will be able to book to book the library as normal, as normal. No, not the library, but hopefully she'll be, they can find somewhere else to do the sessions, to do my sessions, because there is absolutely no way I got on this earth that I am actually stepping foot in the town hall. I am not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to do something that I don't feel comfortable doing. I'm not prepared to do something just because it's easier for them. I'd rather, at the end of the day, I'd rather do my sessions in a place where I would feel more comfortable going to, and I wouldn't have a problem with going to. I don't want to have to do my one-to-one job coaching sessions in a place that I don't feel comfortable going to. And that's the thing. Like, if I had to do my sessions at, my one-to-one sessions at the town hall, I would never feel comfortable going to that place. You know, I think it is going to take me a little while to kind of get used to the fact that the one-to-one sessions are basically not going to be at the Whitechapel Library anymore, because obviously that's been the thing now for a good few months. It's been I've been, I had gotten so used to the fact that I was going to, the Whitechapel Library, every week, every week as normal. And now that's all changed, and it kind of felt like when I first started with making strides, things weren't too bad, like things were pretty good. But now it kind of feels like things are starting to go downhill a little bit. Things aren't as good because they can't get the they can't get the rooms at the library now because of the funding, and it's like, I mean, my question on it is like, what's going to happen with like the trips and stuff? Are they still going to be doing them? Because how can they do still do the trips and stuff if they can't even get the funding for the funding for the rooms at the library, to put the rooms at the library? It's like, it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And it's not just, it's like when it's like it's always funding. It's always other people that have to suffer because of these funding problems. You can't do this because of funding. You can't do that because of funding. It's like, oh, get the funding. It's it's just ridiculous. And so many places, like there's so many different places and things like that are having this problem now where they can't get the funding that they need to be able to do certain things. For example, making strides. They now can't get the funding that they need to be able to put the rooms at the library. And that now means that we've got to make do with having our sessions somewhere else, and we've now got to get used to that. And that's going to be hard for us. It is not. I think it's not. It's not just going to be hard for me. It's going to be hard for the other people as well, getting used to the fact that the sessions are not going to be at the library anymore. Because we've gotten so used to that now. We've gotten so used to that now because that was what we did every week. We would go to the Whitechapel Library. Now we've got to get used to our sessions not being there anymore, not being in there anymore because they can't get the funding they can't get the funding for the rooms, like to book the rooms. It's just, it's a very, very sad situation, if I'm being honest. The fact that we've now got to get used to being, to having our sessions somewhere else because they ultimately can't get the funding that they need to put the rooms at the library. It's just madness at the end of the day, and it shouldn't be like that. There shouldn't be this problem where they can't get the funding, but unfortunately there is. And it's like, well, what can you do? It's like, I hope that they can find somewhere else. I shouldn't see why they can't. You know, I think it would be more appropriate for them to kind of take my feelings into consideration and just it's not, as I said, it's not about what's easier for them. It's about what I feel comfortable with, and I don't feel comfortable doing my one-to-one sessions at the town hall. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I thought I would give my thoughts on that this morning. So I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.